Hey guys, this is Mugalore here, and let's talk about Cyberpunk 2077. So before we dive into this video, just make sure you click on that subscribe button because it really helps out the channel, and hit that bell to be notified for more RPG news on this channel in the near future. So let's dive right into it. Cyberpunk 2077. Wow. This game has seriously made a miraculous turnaround like no other. Now, I know there's plenty of other developers in the past had suffered the same fate as Cyberpunk 2077 and turned things around. Perfect example, No Man's Sky. I really commend the developers down at that studio that was able to pretty much make it back from the depths of hell. And Cyberpunk 2077 is no different. Now, what caused this? What's responsible for this? And you won't believe it, especially those who pretty much checked out of Cyberpunk 2077 or is just new to this channel and don't know what's going on. What pretty much hyped this up is the anime that released on Netflix called Cyberpunk 2077 or Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which released on Netflix about almost like a week ago. And I will tell you one thing, I've watched the anime and I would say this: Cyberpunk Edge Runners have really made me just fall in love with anime again. Now, I always love anime, but this by far is one of the best animes of 2022. It has some of the best characters I've ever seen in a long time. World building aspects was just awesome. And by the time I reached the end of the anime, I pretty much had shed a tear. I didn't know that they were going to head in the direction they was going to head. And especially you have Studio Trigger, the people who brought us Gurren Lagann and many other high profile animes in their portfolio, and that pretty much gave people a different perspective on Cyberpunk 2077, mainly me as well. And when the game was first announced, Cyberpunk 2077, many people had high hopes for it. Many people was really looking forward to it because of CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red is a studio that always had put the gamers first. They always worried about giving the gamers the best experiences possible, and that was with The Witcher 3. And The Witcher 3 had pretty much made CD Projekt Red gain that trust with the gamers in the community themselves. So Cyberpunk 2077 was just a home run. Was going to be a home run for them. So many people had faith in it, and I kept continuing to keep an eye on the developments for the game, because the game been in development for almost a decade, I believe. And when we finally had gotten the trailer, I was like, wow, like this game really looks good. But as the game continued to pretty much show off more and more gameplay, and the game kept being delayed, and I started noticing that the gameplay, as we started seeing more updates on it, wasn't reflecting what we saw earlier in the earlier gameplay features and demonstrations that they had. That's when I started feeling a little bit skeptical and worried about it. But as the game pretty much essentially reached launch, I started seeing reviewers had reviewer embargoes, and they also wasn't allowed to show off the gameplay that they had. They was only able to use pre-selected gameplay from CD Projekt Red themselves. So these are all major red flags when it came to Cyberpunk 2077. So I started saying to myself, you know what, maybe I should rescind my pre-order, pull back on it. So I pulled my pre-order off the game so I can wait and see how the game is going to turn out. But my brothers Keel Lancer and DX Strike had decided to still go and grab the game. And once the game released, oh boy, there was a lot of negative press regarding Cyberpunk 2077, and CD Projekt Red was hit hard by the community itself, even by its board of directors. Their stock fell. They took a financial hit drastically. A lot of the employees had left the company. It was so much going on with CD Projekt Red, and it seemed like there was no end to the humiliation of Cyberpunk 2077. And I also felt sorry for Podsmith, the creator of the tabletop game that Cyberpunk 2077 was based after. You know, like, this guy's work is being recognized to a mainstream audience, and the first thing that happens is when the game is released is getting trashed because of development issues and all these other problems that the game had. And I was like, man, that kind of sucks, you know. And it didn't help that there were certain content creators out there that was also pushing the hype behind the game, and then when the game turned out to be such a mess, a lot of those content creators went quiet or tried to sneakily remove their reviews out of the scene so people wouldn't notice it and everything, and it caused a lot of problems. Now, I said to myself that Cyberpunk 2077 looks like it's a good game, and I watched my brothers play some of it with their experience. They have it for the Xbox Series X, and I watched their gameplay, and they enjoy it, and the game definitely does look good, but because of the backlash, the glitches, and all the bugs even my brothers and them experience, I said, you know what? I think this is going to be the type of game where I'm going to have to wait and see if the game is ever going to get fixed. So I wasn't the person to pretty much just wrote off. I was the type of person that was going to wait into either a price drop or if they ever going to fix the game into it's in a more functional state for me to dive into it. And that's what the whole goal and the whole plan that I had was. And then eventually I sat back and said, you know what, maybe I should wait for the expansion. And I was going to dive into the expansions, and I totally forgot all about the Edge Runner anime. And in fact, because of the backlash and the hard press that it had received, I thought the anime was going to be was canceled because we heard nothing from the anime. So I haven't been following any news on the Cyberpunk anime or Cyberpunk 2077 in general. So when the first patch was uploaded and was brought out and people started noticing changes and everything, that's what brought me back into wanting to have interest in the game to see if they're actually going to make some course corrections to the game. And then lo and behold, the anime released, and I forgot all about it until IGN and many other outlets had posted a not safe for work trailer of it. I said, oh man, the anime's still coming out, this looks interesting. So when it launched on Netflix, me and my brothers had got together, and well, I have got together, I was and watched it and fell in love with it. And by the time I reached the end, I said, you know what, I definitely need to actually pick this game up and actually give it a try. And that's what I ended up doing. They actually had a huge sale. I think it was like a 50% or 30% sale on Steam that they had for it. So I was like, you know what, I need to grab this, and I'm definitely going to install it and give it a try. And it seemed like the anime had really uplifted it. It had brought so many players into the world of Night City and brought so many returning players to go back and reinstall the game to give it a try, because after watching the anime, you get a new perspective, a whole new outlook, because the anime take place about a year or so before the events of the actual game. And at the same time, they update a brand new patch called Edge Runners. So it coincides with the anime where you're able to get the main character's jacket and a couple other things where people are able to pick up on little Easter eggs and hints and maybe and even weapons of some of the characters that were in the anime. You're able to find these weapons and even discover the locations that was in Night City where the anime had taken place. You're able to scout out those areas and say, oh, this is where this person lived in the anime, this, that, and the third. So it unified the community. It breathed new life into Cyberpunk. So now I definitely want to get into it, and I'm definitely, after Deofield Chronicles, I'm definitely going to dive into this game next. I don't know where I'm going to start. I don't know where to begin with this. So I think this is going to be a fun experience. I'm definitely going to give you my first impressions on it, as well as I experience the world of Night City and Cyberpunk 2077. But all I have to say is that, wow, this was unexpected. Over 105,000 players, 24-hour peak of people consistently playing the game. Now, CD Projekt Red had said that they weren't going to release that there's only going to be one big DLC story expansion. But now, after the success of Cyberpunk Edge Runner, the anime, and how people are returning to the game and new players are entering the world of Night City, will they change their mind? Will there be another expansion? Will there be even farther updates to the game to put in new features that was promised when the game was first launched? We will just have to wait and see for that. But in my personal opinion, I think they should just release the first DLC expansion and just leave it at that. I feel as though that they should just work on a sequel to Cyberpunk 2077. And I guess it would be called, what, Cyberpunk 2078 or something? I don't know. But I think that this game right here should be a lesson learned of allowing developers to spend as much time as possible. And also CD Projekt Red had also changed their method in how they're going to handle game development now. This time they're focusing on listening to the developers rather than listening to their shareholders. They're going to start asking the developers, hey, do you need enough time for this? You know, do you need enough time before we decide to actually release this? Because I think that's important. I think gaining the trust of the community and the gamers and the consumers themselves is more important than trying to satisfy your shareholders. Because at the end of the day, they will have to deal with the backlash from the fans themselves. They're going to lose their credibility and where people don't want to invest in them. And I think Cyberpunk 2077 is definitely a lesson learned that you can take a negative and you can turn it into a positive. And if you create a good product, and if they continue to work on it and create a smooth experience, I think this game will stand the test of time. I think it definitely will. So kudos to the underdogs, and I would say kudos to the developers who spent their hard work and they spent their hard time, effort, labor, and spent that time in the office slaving to get this game, because it really wasn't the developers themselves' fault. You know, they have to listen to the corporate heads at the top. But I'm glad that they were able to see their vision and see all their hard work and labor finally pay off, thanks to the anime that actually pushed it even harder. And also see the fact is that Pond Smith himself is actually seeing the fruits of his labor and seeing his dream, seeing the world that he created of Cyberpunk itself come to life, and everybody from all over the world is enjoying what he had created. So that pretty much wraps this video. Just wanted to give you my thoughts on Cyberpunk 2077 and how it just turned things around and the future of the series moving forward. And I'll definitely be just getting my time and spending my time with it. So if you like to see me some playthroughs, or you like to see some Cyberpunk 2077, since it is considered an RPG, if you like to see some Cyberpunk 2077 content here on this channel, definitely let me know in the comment sections below, and you'll definitely hear my first impressions when I actually start the game up. So if you like the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button because it helps me out here on YouTube, and hit that bell to be notified for more RPG news in the near future. This is Mugen Lord, sign off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.